Section 1. The first thing that made me realize something was wrong wasn't a noise from the basement. It was Rocky. My grandparents had passed away, and instead of my parents selling their house, they decided to let me live there. I was old enough to move out on my own anyway, so the arrangement seemed almost too good to be true. I only had to handle the property taxes and monthly expenses. At first, I loved it. For the first time, the house was completely mine. I could come and go whenever I wanted. I could have friends over without asking anyone. There was nobody reminding me to be quiet or telling me when I should be home. But after a while, the freedom started feeling different. The house was big, and at night, the silence seemed to stretch through every room. There were too many empty spaces and too many corners that disappeared into darkness when the lights were off. Being alone began to get lonely. So I got a dog. His name was Rocky, after Rocky Balboa, and he was a 2-year-old German Shepherd. What surprised me most was how calm he was. Rocky wasn't one of those dogs that barked at every little sound. Most of the time, he was quiet and gentle. He would only really bark when he felt threatened or when he was playing with another dog. The day after I adopted him, I bought him a dog bed and placed it right beside mine. Having Rocky in the house made everything feel different. At night, I no longer felt like I was completely alone. I also started leaving my bedroom door open. That way, if Rocky got thirsty during the night, he could walk down the hallway and get water without waking me. It was a completely ordinary routine. Until one night, not long after I had adopted him, I woke up to barking. At first, I was barely conscious. I heard Rocky somewhere outside my bedroom, barking repeatedly from farther down the hallway. I rubbed my eyes and sat up. The house was dark. Then I heard another burst of barking. Whatever had gotten Rocky's attention was serious enough to make him leave my room. I got out of bed, still dizzy with sleep, and started walking toward the sound. And when I finally reached the hallway and opened my eyes properly, I saw where he was. Rocky was standing in front of the basement door. He was barking like I'd never heard him bark before, and he was clawing at the door. Section 2. I stopped in the hallway and stared at him. Rocky wasn't playing. He wasn't reacting to something outside. He was completely focused on that basement door. Normally, if something strange happened in the house, I would have called my dad and asked him to deal with it. But that wasn't an option anymore. I was living there alone, and whatever was happening downstairs was now my responsibility. The thought of going into the basement immediately made my stomach tighten. I knew I couldn't go down there by myself. So I stood there for a moment, looking at Rocky and then at the door. Finally, I reached for the handle. I opened it as carefully as I could. The door moved only slightly. That was enough. Rocky pushed his nose into the opening, forced the door wider, and immediately ran down the stairs. I had no choice but to follow. I switched on the basement lights and hurried down behind him. But almost as soon as we reached the bottom, something changed. Rocky stopped barking. The sudden silence was somehow worse. Rocky, I looked around the basement. There was no obvious sign of anyone. I called his name again. Nothing. Then I spotted him. He was standing completely still, his tail tucked tightly between his legs. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring toward the opposite corner of the basement. Part of the corner was blocked from my view by a wall. I took a few steps closer. Rocky glanced back at me. His tail lifted slightly. For a second, it looked like he might be calming down. I moved closer again, and that's when I saw what had captured his attention. A closet door. It was just sitting there in the corner. Closed. I stared at it. Rocky's brief moment of confidence disappeared almost immediately. His tail lowered again, and he seemed just as uneasy as before. I couldn't explain why a closed closet door frightened me so much. There was nothing obviously unusual about it, but I couldn't stop thinking about one question. What if something was behind it? I looked at Rocky. I didn't know him well enough yet to know exactly how he would react if there really was someone inside. But I had a strange feeling that he wouldn't attack whoever, or whatever, was behind that door. That thought didn't make me feel safer. It made me more nervous. I stood there, trying to decide whether I should open it. My hand never reached the handle. Instead, I grabbed Rocky by the collar and started walking him back toward the stairs. He resisted for a moment, looking over his shoulder. As we climbed, he kept staring back toward that corner. I shut the basement door behind us. Then I pulled Rocky into my bedroom, closed that door too, and finally went to the kitchen to call my dad. Section 3. It took 3 calls before my dad finally answered. When he picked up, his voice was groggy and heavy with sleep. I explained everything as quickly as I could. I told him about Rocky barking at the basement door. I told him how Rocky had run downstairs, then stopped barking and stared at the closet. My dad listened. Then he told me what he thought I should do. He said I should go back downstairs with a huge knife or some kind of weapon and find out what was inside the closet. The suggestion made my heart sink. I told him there was no way I was going back down there alone. I was already scared enough standing in the kitchen with Rocky nearby. The idea of walking back into that basement, opening the closet, and possibly finding someone hiding inside was more than I could handle. We kept talking. I don't remember exactly how long the conversation went on, but somewhere in the middle of it, I noticed something that made me freeze. The basement door was open. I stared at it. I was certain I had closed it. For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just listened. The house had gone completely quiet. Then I heard something. Footsteps. At first, I wasn't sure. I held the phone away from my ear and listened harder. There it was again. A step. Then another. Loud. Clear. Someone was walking through the house. The sound was coming from the direction of the basement. My entire body went cold. "Wait," I said to my dad. I barely managed to put the phone down before I heard the footsteps continuing toward the front door. There was no mistaking them now. Someone was inside my house. I ran. I rushed back toward my bedroom and told my dad what I had heard. This time, he didn't hesitate. He told me to hang up and call the police. I did exactly that. My hands were shaking while I made the call. Rocky was with me, and the house suddenly felt completely different. Only a short time earlier, it had been the place where I slept. Now, every dark hallway felt like somewhere a person could be hiding. Every doorway seemed dangerous. Every sound made me turn my head. I waited for the police to arrive, listening to the silence and wondering where the person had gone. When the officers finally arrived, they searched the house. But whoever had been inside was already gone. There was no one waiting in the basement. No one behind the closet door. No one hiding upstairs. For a moment, that almost made the entire thing feel unreal. Then we checked the basement. And that's when we found the evidence that explained everything. Section 4. I had left a large amount of cash downstairs near the bar. When we checked the area, the money was gone. That changed the entire situation. Until then, there had been a terrifying question hanging over everything. Who had been in the house? Why had Rocky reacted so strongly? And what exactly had been behind that closet door? But now there was something concrete. Someone had entered the house. Someone had walked through it while I was inside. And that person had taken my money. The police continued searching the basement. Then they found the point of entry. The basement window was wide open. It didn't take long to understand what had happened. The window explained how someone had gotten inside without me noticing. The footsteps explained what happened afterward. The open basement door suddenly made sense too. There hadn't been anything supernatural waiting in that closet. There hadn't been some unexplained creature hiding in the darkness. It had simply been a person, a burglar. And the most disturbing part was that I had been home the entire time. That realization hit differently than the fear I'd felt downstairs. If Rocky hadn't started barking, I might never have known anyone was there. If I hadn't followed him downstairs, I might not have noticed the closet. If the basement door hadn't been open later, I might have remained in my bedroom completely unaware that someone was moving through the house. And if I hadn't heard those footsteps, the burglar might have had even more time to search the house. I kept thinking back to Rocky. He had reacted before I knew anything was wrong. The barking, the scratching, the way he stared at that corner, the way he suddenly became quiet when we reached the basement, the way his tail disappeared between his legs. At the time, I had been wondering what kind of danger Rocky sensed. Now I understood. He had sensed a person. Someone was inside the house, and Rocky knew something was wrong long before I did. The basement itself had probably been enough to make the situation terrifying. But knowing that a real person had entered through the window while I was asleep made it feel much more dangerous. There was no mystery left to solve. That should have been reassuring. Instead, it left me with a much more frightening thought. The thing Rocky had been warning me about had never needed to be supernatural. It only needed to be human. And that person had been close enough to hear me moving around upstairs while I had no idea they were there. Section 5. After the police finished searching the house, the explanation was painfully simple. It had been a break-in, a burglary. Someone had entered through the basement window, moved through the house, and stolen the cash I had left near the bar. There was no supernatural ending, no hidden entity, no impossible explanation. Just someone breaking into a home while the person who lived there was inside. And somehow, that ordinary explanation made the night even more unsettling. I kept replaying the sequence in my head. Rocky had been sleeping near me. At some point during the night, something had changed. He left the bedroom. He went down the hallway. Then he started barking at the basement door and clawing at it. When I followed him downstairs, he became strangely quiet. He stood there with his tail between his legs, staring toward the corner. And there was the closet. I had been terrified that opening it might reveal something I couldn't explain. Instead, I walked away. That decision probably saved me from confronting the burglar directly. Because while I had been standing in that basement, trying to decide whether to open the closet, there was a very real possibility that the person who had entered the house was somewhere nearby. I didn't know that at the time. I only knew that Rocky was afraid. Then, after I brought him upstairs and shut the basement door, I called my dad. During that conversation, the basement door was open again. Then came the footsteps. Not imagined sounds. Not some distant creak caused by an old house. Footsteps moving toward the front door. By the time the police arrived, the intruder was gone. The money was gone too. And the open basement window showed exactly how the person had gotten inside. Looking back, the strangest part isn't that there was a burglar in the house. It's how close I came to discovering him face to face. I had gone downstairs because my dog was barking. I had stood in that basement. I had looked directly toward the closet. And I had seriously considered opening the door. I still don't know whether the burglar had been hiding there, moving through the basement, or simply using that area to get into the house. The only thing I know for certain is that Rocky sensed something was wrong before I did. That night changed the way I thought about living alone. The house wasn't haunted. There was no ghost waiting downstairs. There was something much more real. Someone had entered my home while I was sleeping. And if Rocky hadn't started barking, I might never have known until it was too late.